and attractiveness of transit.
Right. Can you tell me then, I've heard a lot of numbers about the cost of the LRT and also the cost of the expansion with respect to the Bloor Danforth to the Scarborough Town Centre. What is the current thinking or the current cost analysis of the LRT? I'd heard like 1.8. Is that much higher? Or
So Metrolinx, when the master agreement was put together, Metrolinx were assigning $1.8 billion. That's 2010 dollars, $1.8 billion for the cost of construction of the LRT. When the plan was changed by City Council to go to a subway, they took away $400 million to cover their costs of Kennedy redesign. So that left the delta of 1.4 that's often quoted today. So that 1.8 is 2010 dollars. Presumably, they would have been asked to cover costs of escalation had we been sticking with an LRT.
So what is the number now then? Sorry.
So what we're saying is 1.8 billion is the cost in 2010 dollars. The escalated cost would have to be calculated based upon the predicted end date in line with my earlier answer.
My next question, my final question is for Ms. Keesmaat. I read in the report that you did in January, when you looked at an assessment you undertake to look at the consideration of a variety of options with respect to connecting the rapid transit to Scarborough Centre and so on. Your expert conclusion was that optimized extension of Line 2, which is again being recommended here today. Can you summarize for me, please, why an extension of Line 2 would be the best to serve this particular area? And in fact, if we were to delay, what would be obviously the benefit of that delay?
Thanks, Councillor Thompson, for your last question. Mr. Keesmaat.
Through the Mayor, there are a variety of reasons, and it's important to note that in the base case analysis that you have with you today, that the starting point, the base case is the three-stop subway and not the LRT. There are a few reasons. One is the timing. It provides an express connection into the existing network with no transfer. In addition, it provides a higher capacity, which is in keeping with the long-term vision of the Scarborough Centre as an urban hub and as a centre for the eastern portion of the city. Also, there are considerations around the implications with respect to construction and maintaining the SRT during the construction period.
All done. My goodness gracious. Thank you, Councillor. That was the last question indeed. So we have now Councillor Bilo.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the planning rationale, from what I recall, you had two issues that you were trying to address. And one of them was with regards to the trips within Scarborough, right? There's a very high percentage of people that live in Scarborough that only travel in Scarborough. Is that correct? And what is the number again? Because I actually don't remember anymore.
Through the Mayor, that's correct. 48% of transit trips that begin in Scarborough also terminate in Scarborough. 48%.
Okay, and the other big percentage was actually people going from Scarborough to downtown, which they currently, I'm assuming, are using the RT.
Through the Mayor, that's correct, and that number is 6%.
Okay, and so these are the two issues, basically separate issues that you're trying to address with your plan.
Through the Mayor, that's correct. One is building out the future long-term vision of an urban hub in Scarborough. The second is addressing the intensification opportunities in Scarborough, as well as the opportunity to address network considerations for where people are going today.
Okay, and you talk about the network. So what happens if a piece of this network is taken out of the equation? Do you have to go back to the drawing board and everything would be off the table and basically you'd have to actually look at all these lines?
Through the Mayor, that would be my recommendation. If the objective was to take one piece out, would be to redirect us to go back and to look at the entire network.
So what we're saying in here is if when you take one piece out, you're putting a stop on the LRT, on the subway, on the smart track, all these because they're in a way interconnected.
Through the Mayor, that's correct. This is why we have been emphasizing that this is a network plan, and if you change one component, we do need to in fact go back and reassess all of the components to come to a solution. And it's precisely because they have been changing that we have continually been going back to the drawing board.
And this has been work of 2 years, so it'd be fair to say that would basically be delaying all this process for at the minimum another 2 years?
Through the mayor, 3 years, that's correct.
Oh, sorry, 3
3
years. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bailão. Councillor McMahon.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. So we heard today from some residents on Pape Avenue. I'm just wondering, was a car law route ever explored or considered?
Through the mayor, at the outset of the process, when strategic consideration was being given to various alignments, car law was considered at a very high level, and it was excluded because it required an additional turn, which would add cost, and also the Pape station was preferred given the development potential at Pape and Gerrard.
Okay, and how many relief line public meetings did you host?
Through the mayor, we've hosted 30 coordinated public information sessions over the course of the past 2 years. That includes our stakeholder advisory group meetings, our technical advisory group meetings, as well as our public information sessions.
And a subway is being proposed for McCowan currently. Is McCowan mostly residential?
Through the mayor, that's correct, and that's why mining is the preferred approach.
Okay. And then with regard to the subway, if council chose not to proceed with the Scarborough Subway and revert to the LRT plan, is there room in the corridor for an LRT track?
Through the mayor, we would in fact need to investigate that. There have been significant changes over the course of the past 3 years since we have been advancing the subway, including the introduction of Smart Track, including the introduction of Go RER, and we would need to in fact look at the capacity of the corridor to absorb more infrastructure. We fully expect that there would be additional property takings that would be required because of what has been proposed since the LRT had been previously considered.
And what kind of a delay will we be looking at for the LRT?
So if we were to start today, if we reverted to an LRT solution, we would probably be looking at a delayed opening date to 2025, potentially 2026, primarily driven by the need to redesign Kennedy Station, which has now been taken forward with Metrolinx to accommodate a subway crosstown interchange, and also Metrolinx would need time to do their work before they'd hand it over to us in order to accommodate the LRT solution. So you'll be looking at around 2026.
So how many years is that whole delay? Sorry.
It was originally 20.
Through the mayor, initially, over the course of the next 12 to 18 months would be the exercise to generate the work program and identify the next steps.
And can we be sure the province would agree to return to the LRT plan that council abandoned?
Last question.
Mr. Mayor, we wouldn't, we don't have any, we haven't broached that with the province to date.
Okay, thank you.
Where's my list here? Councillor Robinson.